Make sure you don't miss a thing. Go to starzology.com/newsletter and sign up. Welcome to the Starzology Astrology Podcast. I'm Alison Price, and I'm here with my good friend and co-host, Arwynne O'Neill.
Hello, Alison. It's great to be here again.
So nice to have you once more. So in this episode, we're going to be talking about planetary complexes.
Yeah.
And you may know this in other words or with whatever it is, or weighing planets and so on. And we're going to talk about that. And then I'm just going to talk about what a planetary complex is, how we used to do it back in the day, and the method I've decided that I'm using and going ahead to work out these planetary complexes. The idea is that when you're trying to read a chart, you want to get to the heart of the matter immediately,
right,
or as soon as possible. You don't need to be waffling through all the planets, through all the houses, through all the signs, through all the aspects, because if you're a consulting astrologer, you haven't got time to do that. It's going to take you a week.
Right.
So the idea is that when you look at a chart, you want to be able to easily calculate which would be your strong planet, and we know that through its complex.
Right. And this is also useful for a beginning astrologer or a beginning astrology aficionado who is just interested in getting to the meat of their chart and not getting bogged down, as we all did when we first started studying it, with every little aspect and every planetary combination and just pages and pages of data. Let's
get to the point, right?
Yeah. And then you can, pick and choose all the little things.
Exactly.
Focus on the big things.
Exactly. So let me explain. So a planetary complex is to do, you can also have house complexes as well, but with planetary complexes, it's everything that pertains to that particular planet within your chart that becomes part of its complex. So say if you've got the sun in Virgo, that becomes part of the sun's complex for you, and the house and the aspects, but there's more to it.
Yeah, assuming that that's not the only aspect the sun makes or whatever.
Yeah,
but even so, it's still in a house, it's still in a sign. So,
yes. So you back in the day, you would start off, and maybe even today, you would start off going this, the sun in Virgo, the sun in the 10th house, and read those paragraphs and do some kind of blending and decide is this well placed, blah blah blah, and maybe you don't know what the answer is to that. But anyway, so I've got some ideas on that. And we're also going to be talking about different features that I believe are important when you're trying to determine which planets are more important for someone than somebody else, because your sun might be important for you, but for me, it might be Saturn. And if you are trying to interpret somebody's chart, you're better off talking to the prominent planet because they know about it, because it's dominant in their lives and they're working with it all the time. So if you're reading that chart, you can get a better connection with them straight away because you're tapping straight into the planet
that's the most important for them.
Yes.
And it might not always be the sun. I think that's
the thing.
That's an important sort of burying the lead or whatever.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people say, well, I've read that I'm a Taurus, but I don't really relate to the descriptions of Taurus.
Yeah.
And it may be because most likely there's another planet that is taking center stage in their chart, and they would never know that unless they did their own chart or came to an astrologer.
That's right.
Yeah.
So it's like if you were, say, for instance, going to a horse race and you've got all your 10 horses lined up from the sun to Pluto, and they're all looking the same when you first start because you don't know the difference between this horse and that.
Yeah.
But, whatever's going on, the planets will have their own complexes that will impact their ability to express themselves in that person's life.
Yeah, and just like in a horse race, any of them can come in first, and it doesn't necessarily have to be the favorite or the sun or the moon.
This is exactly it. So this is a way of looking at to determine which planets are more important than others, and so it's called planetary complexes. But I've kind of taken it a step further because that's me, right? You got to do that. You just got to do it. Yeah, so the idea with planetary complexes is that we take multiple criteria from the chart, and each chart will be different, and we make a decision about what's important and what isn't. Right. So now, back in the day, if you were doing, you may have heard of essential dignities, which is and most people do. So you've got the weighings of the planets. So you've got planets in rulership, which is the sign that they rule. You then have planets in exaltation, planets in fall, and planets in detriment, and
and I remember reading about that. I've never quite memorized them, of course. Just, whatever. I can always find it at a, touch of a
keyboard.
Yes, thank you. My God. Click of something.
Yeah.
But they're archaic, but yet also very relevant.
Exactly.
Because they have to do not only with the the sign rulership, but then also like there's trines and sextiles that kind of pull in, and so the opposite from the ruler is in, what is it? Is it?
It's
fall?
a detriment. It's a detriment. Yes.
And then there's fall, which is that a square? I don't know.
No. It's just so the essential dignities have been around since Ptolemy's day, if not before then. And, you can argue with me on this, but they've been around since the dawn of time. And those are your main 4 rulerships. And but I wanted, so you may know that and say, oh, yes, well, my sun's in Leo, therefore it's going to get a score of +5, which was Ptolemy's way of doing it. Yeah. And my Saturn's in Capricorn, and that's going to get a +5, and therefore blah, blah, blah. And there's nothing, that is absolutely valid, but we're going to build on these basic essential dignities with some fine tuning. And I was thinking about when I was doing this today and polishing it off, I thought, this is my Virgo coming through. It's if we want to nitpick, we're going to nitpick today.
Amazing. Let's
nitpick. Okay, so the main features that we're going to take into consideration for planetary complexes are, we'll go through, I'll just list them first, then we'll go through them. So you've got the chart ruler, the sign, the planet's house, the planet's aspects, the planet's position within the chart shape itself, the dispositor tree, because we love it, the direction, whether it has anticia, and maybe even more.
And a couple of questions burst out at me. First of all, do you have this available for our listeners on your website?
Yes. So if you follow the link through to the website where this is on the actual show notes, there is a PDF you can download.
Amazing.
And that will be available for those. Dare I say?
If you want to play along at home, you can have the home version of the game.
Yeah, and so I have a PDF version of it's called the Starzology Planetary Complex Guide. It's a 1-pager, and you'll actually get what we're talking about here, and it's like a scoring sheet.
Yeah, so it goes like the chart, the sign all the way across the top, or the planet all the way across the top. And then the feature all the way down the bottom.
Yes,
it's like a multiplication.
So the columns are all the planets have their own column.
Yeah.
And all the features we're going to talk about now have a row.
And then they get a score at the bottom.
Yes.
I love it.
Yeah.
I have another question that just came up. And I'm sure we'll get to it. But this is the first thing that bounced out at me is the chart shape.
Yes.
So we all know about chart shapes, possibly if we've read whatever book from Alan Leo, possibly, or something like that back in the day. So how would that affect the quality of a certain planet? Because that would just be like you have a bucket. Oh, would that be like if it was the handle of a bucket or something like that? There you go. Or a leading planet. Yes. I answered my own question.
You've answered your own question. So I've just handed Arwynne her actual calculated table.
Filled out for me, by the way. Thank you, Alison.
Filled out for me so that so we can follow along.
Yes.
Because there's a lot going on. But absolutely, yes. So these are the considerations, right? Okay, so let's just I just want to go through it all, and then if you've got questions that come up, we'll work on that. So the chart ruler.
Yeah.
So the chart ruler is the planet that rules the sign on the ascendant.
Yeah.
And so, for instance, if you've got Aries on the ascendant, Mars is your chart ruler. Mm-hmm. If you've got Aquarius on your ascendant, then Saturn or Uranus and Uranus is your chart rulers. So you may have 2 if you've got those signs that have 2 rulers, and they are Scorpio is ruled by Mars and Pluto, and Aquarius is ruled by Saturn and Uranus, and Pisces is ruled by Neptune and Jupiter.
And do you count the archaic or modern ruler when you're doing this?
I do both.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So if you have, that's what I'm saying. If you have Scorpio rising, then you've got Mars and Pluto as your chart rulers.
So give 3 points for each.
Yes. Okay. So the idea is that first of all, you're going to decide which planet or planets are your chart ruler, and they will get a score of +3.
Right.
So we're trying to keep it simple. And then the next thing we're going to be looking at is the actual sign's essential dignity. Mm-hmm. So any planet in rulership, and that means they're in their own sign. So here you've got the moon is in Cancer, it's in its own sign. Any planet in rulership will get a +5. Do you have any planets in your own sign?
I do. I have 2. I have Mercury in Virgo and Venus in Libra.
So they both get +5.
They do, yeah.
So that's great. So we're already off to a good start with those 2.
And I know you have a sun in Leo.
Yeah, sun in Leo and Saturn in Capricorn. Yeah. So these are solid calculations at this point.
Yeah.
And the next one we're going to look at is the exaltation. So A planet in exaltation will get a score of +4.
Yeah.
You can check these. I don't have the table there, but you can check these online. So the difference between a planet in rulership is that when a planet's in its own sign, it owns the place.
Yeah.
It's like if you relate it to a house, it owns the place. It can go and paint the basement and take a shower.
Yeah.
It's a planet in rulership. It's got full autonomy within that sign and can work at its best.
Yeah.
Whereas a planet in exaltation is a welcome guest. They were invited in and they are welcome to stay for tea and this and that, but they're not going to start painting the basement.
Right.
But they are welcome. So planets in exaltation get a score of +4.
Nice. And what would it be? You don't have to tell me all of them because we don't have the list.
Do you have any in exaltation?
I don't actually. So what would be an example of one?
An example of that is the sun is exalted in Aries, the moon is exalted in Taurus, Venus is exalted in Pisces. Yeah?
Yeah. I mean, those seem pretty random to me, to be honest.
Right, yes. These are ancient. This is Ptolemy. Blame them.
Yeah, Ptolemy. Okay.
Yeah. So any planet in exaltation will actually then get a score of +4.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
But if it's in rulership, it can't be in exaltation. It's one or the other, right?
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. I don't have any planets in exaltation. And then we have fall, planets in fall. Now, this is the sign of opposite of the exaltation. Mm-hmm. So where the sun was exalted in Aries, it falls in Libra.
Got it.
Now, this gets a -4.
Yeah.
So it's always tricky with the sun because when the sun is in Libra, it doesn't sit well because the sun is independent, me.
Right.
And Libra is about us.
Yeah,
and
it's partnership and compromise.
Yes.
And yeah.
So it doesn't fit well, and that's why it falls there. That's one simple way of explaining it. And then, for instance, if the sun is in dignity in Leo and Aquarius, it's the same principle.
Oh.
The sun is about me, I, and Aquarius is about everybody.
Right. That's why my Saturn, since it's in Cancer, that's in fall, isn't it?
No, it's in detriment.
Detriment.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So planets in detriment are opposite their sign of rulership.
Yeah, not the opposite.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
It's so complicated.
I know.
My goodness.
I know.
And it's like a beautiful crystalline snowflake.
It is, and it's all in my book. I'm just going to of course it would be.
Plug the book.
All the tables. Well, why not? Just a moment.
Okay.
This might actually help you, Arwynne, as we're sitting there like cheese, because I can't remember everything on the fly either. I'm just going to hand you the book. And at the moment, we're just looking at the dignities and exaltations. So we got rulership, exaltation, fall, and detriment. So these are the main 4 categories that you can count. But then there are 2 more. There is term and there is face.
Okay.
So if you turn the page, so planets in their term, these are known as term rulers. And here I'm talking about Ptolemy's term rulers. And any planet in the correct position within a sign, and I can't say all this on the podcast, will get a score of +3.
And are these degrees?
Yes, they are.
Wow.
Yes.
My goodness.
I know. So say, for instance, if we wanted to check the term ruler of one of your planets, say you've got, I don't know, Mercury's at 0 degrees Virgo.
Yeah.
You go to Virgo. You go to Virgo. You go to the top one, 0 degrees, 0 to 6, is it? What's the planet that rules it? Okay.
I don't see it. I don't see 0 anywhere.
No.
Yeah. Oh, Virgo. There we go. Mercury.
Therefore,
Mercury is in...
gets term. So it should get a +3.
Yes.
I don't know. Well,
should certainly have that.
certainly get a +3.
Yeah.
So it's going to get complicated. But the idea is that all these terms and the face we haven't come to yet, they're all in my book, and also the other things we're going to come across. But you can just Google these and you'll get the term and the face calculations as well.
Totally. Amazing.
So it adds more to your actual chart, right?
Yeah.
So in the end, and you end up with a calculation for your essential dignity.
Love it.
So that's to do with the sign, planet in sign. These are all the nicky-nacky ways we can go through to calculate planets in signs. So just off the cuff, do you have a couple of planets with a score at this point?
I absolutely do, yeah. In the dignity column, we just discussed, I have Mercury and Venus, which are both in their own sign, or their sign of their rulership. I have 2 in fall, which are Saturn, because I have Saturn in Cancer, and Mars, which I have in Taurus.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's opposite. It's not opposite.
It's opposite. It's,
Yeah, it's opposite Scorpio. Right. Oh, my gosh, of course. And then I've got 2 in term, which is Mercury and Venus.
Yeah, and they both happen to get extra, but that's what we call extra. Bonus points for them.
Yeah, and then I have one that's in face, and that's also Mercury, because Mercury is the happiest planet in my chart.
Yeah, so face is where you actually break down if you turn the next page over, face is where you break down each of the signs into 10 degrees, and the first 10 degrees are ruled by, so in Aries, the first 10 degrees is ruled by Mars,
right.
And then the second 10 degrees is ruled by the next element ruler, which is the sun ruling Leo, so that's the sun, and then your third term would be Jupiter, because that's Sagittarius, also a fire sign.
That is so interesting, and
yes.
Let me just do a tiny digression here.
Please do.
Honestly, I've never seen a table of a planetary face. Is it called just faces?
It's face.
Yeah. I've never seen this before, but it's really a fascinating thing. Like if you really associate yourself with a certain sign, like I feel myself to be incredibly Virgo.
Right.
Obviously,
right.
I've got the 3 of my most close planets in Virgo. But it's neat to see what the first 10 degrees or 9 degrees actually of Virgo are obviously Mercury, but after that is Saturn, and after that is Venus, and that's just kind of because I never would have thought Saturn and Venus particularly had anything to do with Virgo. But clearly it does, and that's
because it's the element. Yeah. So Virgo's Earth. So the next sign is Capricorn, and that's why it's Saturn.
Right.
And then the third sign is Taurus. That's why it's Venus.
I love that. That's really cool.
So again, this.
But it's associations you normally wouldn't think of.
Exactly.
Then when you see them, you're kind of like, oh yeah,
Yeah. So you would check, because your Mercury's in the first 10 degrees of Virgo. You've got face.
Yeah, totally. I mean, and that's my sun and Mercury and Moon all in the first.
But only Mercury has face.
Yeah, exactly.
Because Mercury's the face ruler.
Yeah.
All right.
That's great.
I know. It's
cool.
going to be one of those where you're thinking, I got to fold these tables. And yes, I'm sorry to the listeners, but you do.
Yeah.
But
just look up the table.
Yeah. And this is how you work this out. So you end up with this number, and your planets are, some planets are stepping forward.
Yeah.
Some are totally neutral, and others might have a minus number by now.
Right. And the entire point of doing all of this is not to add complexity, because as we were saying, we do not want to do that. But the whole point of this is giving you something to focus on.
Yes.
So it's creating a scorecard where you can actually go, okay, this planet, in my case, Saturn, not that great, not that important.
Yes.
I mean, it might make important aspects, but it might be overruled by the other planets in importance.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, in my case, I've got the sun is in Leo, so that's getting +5, and Saturn's in Capricorn, and that's getting +5. But Saturn also has face, so it gets +2. That makes Saturn 7 already. So it's already ahead in the race by a nose.
I can't wait to see how the race turns out.
I know, right? So then the next feature we're going to be looking at is the planet's house. So if the planet is in accidental dignity, it will get a score of +1. And that means that it's in the house that it rules in the natural wheel.
Right.
So again, let's go to the sun. If the sun is in the 5th house, which is the natural house of Leo, it will get a +1.
Right.
And I don't know if you have any planets there that are getting accidental dignity.
I don't.
No.
No.
Okay, well, there you go.
Yeah.
No, I don't have any either.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. You don't. These are subtleties. They're just adding a little extra pinch of salt to the mix.
Totally.
Mm-hmm. And then for houses, you have different types of houses. We've spoken about this before: angular, succeedent, and cadent, which is another way of looking at it. And we said that angular planets are available for you from the moment of birth. So I'm giving these a score of +1.
Yeah.
If you have planets in a succeedent house, that is just neutral, so they just get 0. It's neither up nor down. And if you have planets in cadent houses, they are waiting to be used by you. You need to evolve enough to use these planets. So they're getting a score of -1 because you've got to use them.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure, again, Arwynne, if you have any planets that are either angular or cadent.
I actually have 4 planets that are angular.
Yeah.
Yeah, and 2 that are cadent.
There you go.
And none that are succeedent.
That's right.
Something like that.
Yeah. So that's what you're getting, right?
Or several that are succeedent, but they get 0 points. That's what I meant.
That's right. Yeah, because technically it's a neutral thing.
Yeah.
So that's my score again. So if it's an angular house, +1.
Yeah.
If it's succeedent, a big fat 0.
Yeah.
And if it's cadent, -1, because you've got to work for it.
Right.
So the planet's struggling to express itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Totally.
Okay.
I love that. That's great. Yeah.
So the next thing I'm looking at is the planet's aspects.
Yeah.
Now, I'm only considering the Ptolemaic aspects. That's conjunction, opposition, trine, square, and sextiles. Yep. But I do add in parallels and contraparallels, which we haven't done yet. But these are the aspects of declination, which will give that double whammy. Mm-hmm. I can put a link to a video about how to calculate that too.
Good idea.
Yeah. So what I am suggesting that because if you have planets that have hard aspects, which are the squares and the oppositions, they're the only two we're considering. Mm-hmm. So say your sun is, I don't know, square Neptune.
Yeah, let's say.
That will get a +1 because you're going to work for it. It's a manifesting aspect.
Yeah.
Whereas if your sun has, say, a trine to Mars, that's a -1 because it's not getting you off the couch to go and do anything.
Yeah.
So what I'm suggesting here is that hard aspects from a planet will get +1.
Yeah.
Soft aspects will get a -1 and conjunctions a 0.
And for those who don't necessarily know this, you consider the orb of an aspect.
Well, I do.
If it's a conjunction.
The conjunction, squares, oppositions, and trines are 8 degrees.
Okay.
And sextiles is 4 degrees.
Okay. That's very different from what the software does automatically and what a couple of different websites do automatically as well. So
I had to help someone this morning sort their aspects out because they are incorrectly. You can't just open an astrology app and go with what they've given you.
Yeah.
We have to be, what's the word, critically thinking astrology.
And selective too.
Yes.
I mean, oh my gosh, when I first got, and this was my favorite astrology program for years and years and years, but I literally had to go into the settings and change every single setting that they had. I mean, they had sesquiquadrates at like 4 orbs, and I'm like, what? No,
it's the same with Astro Gold.
Oh my God, are you kidding me? Yeah.
You know, these are my ideas. You do you.
I mean, if you consider a sesquiquadrate 4 orb, like you're going to be reading aspects all day. Like that's, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you do you, but these are what I'm suggesting on my handy dandy little table thing here. So the other thing regarding aspects is that if you have a planet that is the focal planet of a triangular aspect pattern.
Yeah.
So what this means is, what's the triangular aspect pattern? It's a T-square, a yod, a Thor's hammer, and a mini grand trine. These are the triangle patterns.
Yeah, a mini grand trine.
A mini grand trine has 2 planets in trine, and they're both sextile a 3rd planet.
Oh, okay.
That's known as a mini grand trine.
Oh.
Yeah. Whereas a grand trine doesn't have a focal planet because it's equilateral.
Yeah.
So we don't use that. But T-squares, you've got the 2 planets in opposition, both squaring the focal planet.
Right.
That's the point. That's
and a grand cross, they would be all 4.
That's why we don't count the grand cross. It has to be a triangular pattern.
Because it has to be the focal point. And those don't have them because they're not even.
Exactly.
Got it. Amazing.
So handily dandily in your chart, you've got this yod, and Jupiter is the focal planet. So that's getting I believe it's a +2. A +2, exactly.
Yeah.
And then you've got Chiron, which I don't even put on the list, but you can do that on the side if you want to.
Yeah.
So Chiron is at the sharp end of your Thor's hammer.
Yeah. And apparently my Saturn has 2 +2s. I'm not sure what that is. It's my.
That would be your 2 squares. Yes.
Okay, squares. Next.
The squares that we were talking about. Yeah.
Square, I know I've got Saturn square Pluto. That's a big one.
Yes.
Yeah.
So for aspects, there's 2 things you're looking at. You're looking at hard and soft. Yeah. Well, that's 3 things, but they go together. And you're looking at, is it a focal planet in a triangular pattern? And if it is, it's the business end of the energy of those other 2 planets. Right. So it's hugely important, such as your Jupiter. Yeah. You've got, the sun is sextile Saturn, and they're both quincunx to Jupiter. And Jupiter's at the business end of that, and it's getting that energy. That's why it's getting the points, even though perhaps that's a planet you don't think of much.
I like it because it's in my 3rd house.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And my 3rd house is important to me as a communicator.
Okay.
As a writer, as a information junkie, as I've said before about Jupiter in the 3rd house.
And we need to do a project.
It's now the focal point of something as well. So
of a yod, So we need to do an episode on yods as well. We haven't. I don't think we've done that, have we?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, anyway. So this is it. So if you've got a T-square, I have a T-square. I've got the Sun, Chiron, and both squaring Jupiter. My Jupiter too, Arwynne, hello.
Nice, hello.
Has this, it's the business end.
Jupiter twinsies.
Yeah. It's the Jupiter business end of a T-square. So it's getting the bonus points as well.
Amazing.
Yeah.
We're living large.
Living large, exactly.
That's the Jupiter motto. I love it.
Okay, so the next point that we're going to add to our planetary complex is the concept of position within the chart. So there are 7 features here. So the first one is If your planet is the most elevated planet, it's getting a +5.
Yeah.
It's in strong position.
And there will be one.
There will be one
No
planet that's most elevated. In your case, it's our friend.
It is our friend Mercury.
It is our friend Mercury.
Yeah,
so you've got that there.
5.
So any planet, so a most elevated planet, for those who don't know, is the planet that's closest to the midheaven on either
And
side.
what happens if you have a chart where everything is clustered in the bottom quadrant?
There is still one planet
still gonna be
closest. You have to calculate it.
Yeah.
There will still be one planet that's closest to the midheaven.
Cool.
Yeah. That's your most elevated. It's getting a +5.
Nice.
The next one we have is the planets in our Gorkalen sector.
Yeah.
We spoke about this where it's 10 degrees in front of or behind the ascendant and the midheaven.
Yes. Is it also the no? Yeah, ascendant and midheaven. It's not the other. It's not the all 4 angles.
They're just feeble, I think. The other two, the IC and the distant. Well, I don't know.
Anything? No. Okay.
No, I don't.
Cool.
Yeah, of course you can.
Yeah.
Yes.
Then they would just be angular, and that's just a little bit less.
Exactly.
That's,
So with the Gorkalen sector, if you've got planets in your Gorkalen sector, you're getting a score of +3. I don't know if you have any. I've got Mercury there, so it's getting +3.
I don't.
No, you don't really have anything there. Then we talk angular. This is where you were coming a moment ago. So for angular planets, I'm saying +1.
Yeah.
And you've got that Mars there conjoined the
descendant. And that would be within, you're thinking 10 degrees of the ascendant or the descendant.
If it's angular, it's 8 degrees.
Oh, okay.
If it's Gorkalen, it's 10.
Yeah, okay. And that would be all 4 angles.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So
on
that's
either side.
Yeah, that's the one you've got. I've also got Mercury there because it's conjoined my ascendant.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
We're still with position here. So any planet that is Cazimi the sun. So that means it needs to be within 0 degrees, 17 minutes of a conjunction to the sun.
Wow.
It's super tight. So Cazimi means in the heart of the sun. It's apparently an Arabic word. It means in the heart of the sun. And it's a position in a chart of the highest level of position.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have any, you don't have any, but, some charts will have it. And if you do, I'm suggesting the Cazimi for a +3.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone needs to check, do they have planets tightly conjoined their sun?
Is that what they used to always call combust as well?
No,
Same
combust
thing?
is 8 degrees to the sun. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So
Cazimi is like ultra combust.
Ultra is beyond combust. It's like it's like in a hurricane, you've got the eye of the storm, and in there it's calm.
Yeah.
That's what that is.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Nice. Good analogy. Well done.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
And then my 5th position numbering is for an anaretic planet. So any planet that's in the 29th degree is anaretic. It's in a very weak position, and I'm suggesting a -1 for that. So any planet you've got at, say, 2901 or 2959 or anywhere within the 29th degree, but not 2859, that's not anaretic. It has to be 29.
Okay.
It's at the absolute tail end of the sign, and that's getting a -1.
All right.
You don't have any?
Nope.
I don't have any. Things to know about chart reading, right?
Yeah.
So the next one I'm looking at now is chart shape. So, and there's only a selected number of shapes that I'm considering. So if your planet is a handle planet, so you can get a handle planet in not a basket, in a bucket and a fan. They're the only two that have handle planets.
Yes.
So if you've got a handle planet, it's getting a score of +2. And then you could have a cutting planet, which is the planet that's leading the pack coming through. So that could also be in a bucket. It's the leading planet. It's in a locomotion. It can be in a bundle too, and also in a fan.
Okay.
But not a seesaw, or a splash or a splay.
Yeah.
So you could have a planet that is a cutting planet, it's going to get a score, or it's a handle planet, going to get a score. Because these are good positions within the shape of the chart.
Right, for sure.
And we need to acknowledge it. This planet has position.
Yeah, definitely. And it might not have any other distinguishing it, but when you look at the chart, you're like, oh, that one stands out.
It's like they're sitting at the head of the table and you didn't notice. Yes, we're noticing you now.
Totally.
Yeah. So that's your chart shape. They're the only 2 criteria I have. And it only does depend on the shape of your chart.
Yeah,
right?
totally. Yeah.
The next one I'm talking about is the dispositor tree. And here there are 2 specific positions I'm concerned with. So if you have a final dispositor tree, which is one planet that disposes the whole chart, that planet gets +3 because it is the final dispositor.
Right. And not everyone has this. Some people, as we've discussed in our previous dispositor tree episodes, some people have 2, like me.
Then it's not final.
Some people have a committee.
Yes.
Which is definitely not having
or a mutual reception, and that's not it either.
Yeah.
So it has to be a final dispositor tree.
Yeah.
And if you're kind of like a second-year astrology student, you should know this by now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, as I say, final dispositors are getting a +3.
Yeah.
And then if you have a gateway planet, which is a planet within the tree that has a planet above it, and at 3 or more planets below it is a gateway planet, and that is getting a score of +1 because it's got position in the dispositor tree.
It's like the gateway drug that leads you to all
It's
of the
the
others.
gateway drug. It's like the guy with the velvet rope. No, you can't come into the discotheque or wherever you go
But
to.
if you do get invited, the first one's free.
Yes.
Yeah.
So for dispositor tree, we've only got the 2 criteria there.
Okay.
So not everyone's going to have this either.
No.
Yeah. The next thing I like to consider is the actual direction that the planet's moving.
Yeah.
So any planet that's just moving along direct is getting nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's retrograde, it's getting a -1.
Okay.
So do you have any retrograde planets in your chart?
I apparently have Jupiter retrograde.
You do. So Jupiter's retrograde, so that's getting a -1.
Oh.
I have Mercury retrograde, and that's getting a -1 as well. Anyway, and then the other position that you can have for direction is if a planet is stationary direct. So that means that it's in your natal chart and it's stationed. It's just come to the very end of its retrograde period, like the hour before you were born.
Yeah.
And it's now stationing direct, and it's going to move direct, not stationing retrograde.
Yeah.
It's got to be stationing direct, and then it's getting +3. So to be stationary, a planet has to be 0 degrees 10 minutes to the turning point.
Wow.
Yeah, we're splitting hairs. Go Virgo.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, everyone else has given up and walked out. But did I make that clear?
That makes sense, yes. And how, aside from having an astrologer who knows these things, how would you ever find that out? Is that something that you'd have to look at?
You've got to learn your astrology.
Ephemeris?
Yeah, the ephemeris has it.
Okay, awesome.
You need to find, I have a situation where I've got, in my natal chart, I've got Venus stationary retrograde.
Yeah.
It went retrograde like half an hour after I was born.
Yeah.
But I don't have anyone stationary direct, which is what you want. That's the good position.
Got it. So you will probably not be able to know this from just doing your chart on some website or most astrology
not
programs.
a chance,
You will
no.
actually have to just look
You
at
need to get an astrologer or do it yourself, yeah. And also that even a planet that is direct in your chart may have just stationed direct.
Yeah.
That's the one we're looking for.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you need to, open your ephemeris, dust it off, get the cat off it, open it up, and
if you're online and you go to astro.com, you can actually look up the ephemeris tables. They have PDFs of them. So this is also a thing you can do.
Well, yeah, but I think at this level you better have an ephemeris.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the next criteria we are looking at is anticia and contra anticia. So anticia it's an advanced topic. You need to do some research on it. But if planets have anticia, they will get a score of +2, and you will have 2 planets in a pair that are mirroring each other across the actual axes. And I don't know if you have any, Arwynne. I seem to recall.
No, I absolutely have none.
No, you've got none.
Yeah.
And I don't have any either. But if you do have planets in anticia, they have to be exactly the same distance across from the 2 axes that we're talking about. Anticia gets +2, and contra anticia will get -1. If you turn the page, it's on the next page.
Contra anticia.
Yes.
Wow.
So,
oh my God,
we are fine-tuning.
Wow.
These planets within your chart. We're saying, okay, you 10 runners lining up there at the front. Who of you are deserving of being an important planet in my chart?
What's the orb here that we're considering?
1 degree.
Oh,
1
wow.
degree on anticia, yeah. It's got to
So,
be very tight. But
very tight.
if you get it, you get it. If you got it, you got it. Yeah.
Wow.
And those are all the criteria I have at the moment. But I'm sitting here thinking there has to be more, and maybe we'll come up with something else at some point.
Yeah.
But Arwynne, what we've done is we've gone through your chart and my chart, and you've gone through the actual table that you can download.
Yeah.
And you've added up and totted up all these numbers. And do you have a planet that's stepping forward?
The clear winner in my chart is Mercury.
And what score does that get?
It has a 15, which is double the next one, which is Venus.
Yeah.
7. So
it is stepping forward in all its bells and whistles with its shiny buckles on. And
totally. And then a distant third is Pluto.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's me in a nutshell. Mercury, Venus, Pluto.
Yes. Do you agree with it?
I totally do. That's a fascinating way of looking at it because I never thought of it this way. I've never actually done this whole exercise. I've done the dispositor tree, and in that I have Mercury and Venus neck and neck. They have the exact same dignity, or
so they're getting
power.
scores. Well, no, they're not, because they're not final dispositor.
Right, exactly. And so I get 0 for that in this complex. But yeah, this really speaks to me, because those 3 planets,
I mean,
Mercury, feel that.
Mercury here is head and shoulders above everything else.
Yeah.
So here's the point, that if you were my client and I was your astrologer, I would, having calculated all this, because I would do it anyway, I would need to talk to your Mercury, because you're living it. You know what I'm talking about.
Totally.
And I can make a better connection with you as your astrologer, talking through your Mercury.
So it's almost like you'd spend, like, I know you have different ways of dividing up the hour, but in theory, if you were using only this complex, you would spend half an hour out of the hour on my Mercury, 15 minutes maybe on the Venus.
And you wouldn't know.
And like another 5 to 10 on the Pluto, and then whatever else.
Yeah. And the reason is because if I talk about your Mercury, and I wouldn't mention Mercury, I would talk about what it's representing.
And
we would talk about how it's working in your life, and you say, yes, you're on. And they then say, aren't you good? Yes, because I'm talking to you about what
means something to you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Whereas if I start talking about a planet that's got a -5, you're not even bothered about that planet in the map.
If you're coming to me talking about responsibility and business and taxes, and do you have a plan for this, and are you buying property, I'd be just like, oh my God.
You'd say, she's not a very good astrologer.
Or even worse than that, if I didn't know anything about astrology, I might think there's nothing to this.
Yes.
It doesn't say anything about me.
And also what's even worse than that from an astrologer's point of view is that you would then go away and tell people, say, yeah, she wasn't very good. Yeah. Because the astrologer wasn't connecting to what's important in your chart. And this is what I'm trying to say.
And you might even not, like worst case scenario, you might not even try to find another astrologer who spoke more directly to you. You might just think, well, there's nothing to this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But if, as an astrologer or anyone who's trying to read charts, if you can make a connection with your client and say, hey, blah, 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 and you talk to what's important to them, you look good, they think you're better, and you get a better rapport with your customer. She also then goes off and says, hey, go to Alison. She's brilliant. And she got right to the core of the matter.
Which is wonderful for you as a business person, and also as a human being. You have actually helped someone instead of yammering on for an hour about something that doesn't matter to them. You've actually spoken to something that resonates with them and that will help them to help themselves. Because that's the entire point of astrology as we practice it today. It's a self-help teaching tool. It's a metaphorical language that enables us to understand each other and ourselves and history and blah, blah, blah. And
I mean, if you go to a doctor and you bashed your knee and you can't get a word in, and they want to talk to you about,
how much coffee do you drink, or some other BS. Yeah,
he's not listening to me. I'm trying to tell him about my knee,
exactly.
But then they're more worried about your little toe or something because they're not listening.
Yeah,
and this is the skill. This is how you. I want to say this is how you get to be a better astrologer.
Totally.
To tune into what's important in the chart rather than just saying, oh, she's got Mars in Taurus.
Yeah. Or just going, starting with the big 3, the sun, the moon, the ascendant, and then going on down the line. You're actually starting with what is the most important person to that person.
And it's different for everybody.
It's different for everybody.
Because you've got a massive score on your Mercury, and I wrote some code.
Literally on my sun and moon, one each.
Yeah.
Compared to 15.
15. And so 15 on my scoring there at the bottom. What did I write there about your scoring? 11 to 20 is better.
It's better. It's fine. It's not best. Best is, yeah.
Exactly. So this is what you've got.
It's possible to even get a higher score than 15.
It is indeed.
Get up to 36.
You can, unbelievably.
Yeah.
So, and just for context, in my chart, the planet that streets ahead is my sun with a +11.
Yeah.
And the next one behind that is 7, and that's my Jupiter. So,
nice.
But the sun is what I'm about, right? You don't talk to me about the moon because I've got a -1 on the moon, know.
Yeah, exactly.
But to my mind, the thing is, Arwynne, that when you're trying to read a chart, you want to make a connection with your client.
Yeah.
And you'll feel better, they'll feel better, and everybody's happy.
Yeah.
So to my mind, this is one way of sorting out the wheat from the chaff and deciding which are your front runners and lean into those. Understand what that means. Talk about that to them because they know what you're talking about. Yeah. They're living it. This is their chart.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Arwynne, I know there's been an awful lot coming at us all in one go. And this is the first time you've seen this. You've seen these numbers. You've seen the table. and I understand it's a complicated topic if you're new to astrology. Right. If you've got 2 or 3 years under your belt, you should be following along beautifully with what we're saying. But are there any sort of questions that you would come up that maybe we could clarify all of this easier for our listeners?
Yeah, I think something that someone who is just getting into studying astrology or looking at people's charts might immediately think of is, oh, wait, what about the ascendant? I thought that was one of the Holy Trinity. Why isn't the ascendant in here? And why isn't the midheaven in here if they're so important?
Yeah, well, because these are planetary complexes.
Yeah, it's right in the title. But yeah.
We're doing planetary complexes. You do acknowledge it for the chart ruler. So we acknowledge you've got Scorpio. So we acknowledge your Mars and Pluto. Yeah. But in the end, they didn't come out top.
Yeah, I mean, and Pluto did end up in the top 3.
Right.
So it's, it's
in the
there.
Pecking order.
Yeah.
But we didn't know that to start with.
Right. It doesn't matter if I had, it might have just been.
And, it's interesting because frequently when you've got one of those 3 signs that's got 2 rulers, the visible planet tends to lead the pack because it's stronger. But in your case, it's not. Pluto is dominating the Mars regarding that ascendant.
Yeah, and most likely that's because I've got Mars in Taurus, which is in its detriment or fall.
I suppose I could have added one of the criteria. Is it the midheaven ruler?
Yeah.
And give it a +1. That might be another way of going.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll add that to the list.
Yeah. That would give my son 1 extra point.
Okay. Really?
I've got Leo and Midheaven.
Yeah, you see, it doesn't make much difference. Well, me too. It's not going to change anything. The sun's still going to lead. For you, it's going to be Mercury. It's so interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
It's so interesting.
Yeah. And I guess another question could be, we talk a lot about transits and we talk about progressions and progressed charts and solar return charts. And clearly, this is something to do with your birth chart. This is forever. This is always. But how would your potential how would your progressed chart or your solar return chart be flavored by this type of stuff? And I guess if you wanted to, you could take your solar return chart and you could
calculate it. Particularly your progressed chart, because that tends to stay in line longer.
Yeah.
So as the progressed ascendant moves around, your chart ruler changes.
Yeah, totally. Right? So if you're over 30 or whatever, when your ascendant will have absolutely probably changed, or maybe even a little longer, depending on the house. Yeah, you might want to do this.
Absolutely
for your progressed chart.
Absolutely, you can do it for your progressed. You can do it. Well, you can do it for the daily transit. What's happening today? Let's look at today's transit chart. Which planet's dominant, and therefore what should be in the news?
Yeah,
because it's global, right?
Yeah. If you have the time to calculate that kind of.
If you have the time, and you can do it for your solar return as well, because that makes sense, because you're often looking at your solar return thinking, oh, good Lord.
Or a relocated chart if you're moving time zones at
basically
least.
Any chart.
Yeah.
Once you've got the hang of it, I would suggest that you just start with what you know to start with, and you can add in the tricky bits later, because the tricky bits are going to be the Anticia and the term and face, because if you haven't got the tables, you can't do it. But you need to dig out these tables if you're an astrologer.
Would you do this for a composite chart?
Oh, yes.
Ooh,
oh, yes.
Fun.
How is this relationship? Which planet is dominating this relationship?
Yeah, I love that. That's cool.
Yeah. And Davison as well. You could do it for that too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Nice.
I mean, the possibilities are endless. Now, of course, I would urge anyone who's listening to add other stuff that interests them. I don't know what it might be, but if you want to do Fedaria or some of these other things that I never do, you can add that to your criteria to determine which planet is stepping forward from the lineup. Is it like that Miss World and all standing there with the thing and say, would Miss Romania step forward? And she just steps forward. And this is what's happening. You've got planets stepping forward. Planets are not created equal in your chart,
right?
And they're not created equal in my chart.
Yeah, absolutely. That is the ultimate takeaway.
Yeah. Okay, so for our listeners, you've done well to get to this point. It's been quite a complicated thing, but by all means, do download the PDF file that's available on the link from the podcast or the YouTube channel to the page on my website, and you can download the PDF there. So what we've done is we've gone through planetary complexes. We've spoken about some old traditional things that have been in place for over 2,000 years, and some new ideas that have added to give a scoring to planets who are better positioned in the chart, who are better representing themselves in the chart, and who are more worthy of having a better score for you.
Yeah.
So if you have found value in this episode, please do consider sharing it with anybody who would be interested. Make sure you're getting our newsletter, and you can sign up at starzology.com/newsletter. Additionally, make sure that you're getting Arwynne's newsletter, and you can find her at...
I'm at mspink.net. That's mspink.net. And I'm sending out my weekly newsletter every Saturday. And I'm talking about goddesses and books and movies and personal nostalgia and just a various bunch of different things.
Very, very interesting newsletter you have indeed. Yeah. So, Arwynne, I want to thank you so much for joining me today and for sticking by as we plowed our way through this very Virgo and highly detailed table.
I'm here for it. I'm here for anything Virgo. Yes.
So thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you. And we will see you all next time.
We'll see you next time.